Greetings, R. Frederick Riddle here with Becoming a Published Author is Fun. Today we're in episode 25, 21. And by the way, if this title of my podcast doesn't make any sense to you, check out episode 8. So here we are, when to start. Yesterday, or rather not yesterday, but the previous podcast, we talked about having a plan. So you got your plan in place, you got your theme and your plot, and you're ready to go. When do you start? Now. I'm not one of these people who believe that you have to go through a whole thing of the history of writing, great authors of the past, the glories of prose. No. Start writing now. You're going to have the opportunity to go back and review, and as you learn, as you're progressing through your writing, you're going to learn things. If you're watching this podcast, you can always be learning something. Every time I put a podcast out, I try to teach you something, and it's free. And so you can take that and you say, "Oh, that sounds like a good idea," and you go back and look. "Oh, I think I'm going to do that," and you can go back and change, and edit your book as it's growing. Now, if you've got any kind of experience writing, you may want to try a little bit different than that. But basically, I want to see you get started now. Why? Well, in my course, it's important because I want that student to believe in his or herself that they can do the job. And there's also something to be said for just doing it. It just makes you feel, I'm writing. I'm not thinking about writing, I'm writing. And there's something positive about that, and it gets those juices going. And so that's what I want with you, even whether you're taking my course or not. If you're writing, you want to be a writer, the time to start is now. It may be totally wrong, and you have to go back and rechange it later on. Well, hopefully you're learning, and as you learn, you can go back and say, "Oh, this needs to be changed, that needs to be changed." And it's a learning. You're actually teaching yourself what works and what doesn't. You're actually seeing it and feeling it. When I first started out writing, I didn't have any coach. And so I would get up to about the fifth chapter and then hit a wall. Well, I'm trying to help you prevent that from happening. And I'm not going to say it's the fifth, the sixth, or even the second chapter. What I want you to do is in the first chapter, when you start to start learning and start applying truth to that. And so that's why I do this podcast, to present to you different ideas that you can incorporate in your writing. And you can either do them later or you can do them now. If you're just starting your writing, you can do them now while you're experimenting. Experiment with it and learn how to create scenes, learn how to do characters and things of this nature. But if you don't know any of that right now, I still want you to start writing because it gets you into a mode, a frame of mind that will help push you forward. And when you do hit that wall, you can plow right on through it. So I recommend you start now. You've got your plot, right? We worked on that in the previous episode. So that's something to review. Maybe change it. Maybe you might have some modifications to make to it. So, and then you start with chapter 1. And remember what I told you? Grab attention right there. There's so many different ways you can do it. Depends upon the kind of story you're writing. Depends upon whether it's fiction or nonfiction. But to grab the attention, to grab the interest of your reader right off, it really cuts across everything. If it's a math book, maybe presenting a particular formula and what that formula might be, some famous formula that you've come across that resulted in something that impacts us in our daily life. Or maybe it's just a simple 2 plus 2 equals 4. And just something that will grab the reader's attention. Now, in novels, fictional writing, you want to have some kind of action. Now, I told you the story about this guy who was playing on a plane and he was flying, and it said it started out by saying in 15 minutes he was going to be dead. He didn't know that. Well, that grabbed my attention when I first got it. And it was only for maybe a few sentences, one or two paragraphs, something really small. And then he was gone. Then the story went backtracked to the very beginning. So, that story that you really what you're doing is you're borrowing from the future, pulling a portion of it up to the front, and then as your story unfolds, it gets to that future again, and you go on through it. And so, but the thing is, you are grabbing something that will stir your interest, stir your reader's interest. And so that's what you want to do. It's a tease. You want people to see things and maybe get their imagination stirred up a little bit. Especially like in that one where the guy died. Well, in that portion of the grab attention, you get a little mini story. And so what led up to that and what goes after that? And those are questions that little portion right there will submit to you. And then you go on from there. You get the backstory and then the story itself. So I just say the story, but that includes the backstory leading up to this moment, and then the rest of the story. And it's a tool. You don't have to use it. I'm not saying you have to use it. I'm saying that you want to create interest. If you can find another way to start your story itself with a attention-grabbing statement, that's fine too. But you need to grab your reader's attention. Something that the story will have highs and lows. And it's going to be occasionally, there's going to be like a plateau. You want to keep those plateaus to a minimum, but they're going to happen. It's just part of the nature of a story. But if it does hit that plateau, you want something to keep that reader going. And that action that you got, the interest that got them into the story in the first place, will contribute to that. Other things that have happened up since then will contribute to that, so that you go through that pause or that level field there. So you want to keep those to a minimum if possible, but they're going to happen. So you want your story to start unfolding. Now I would recommend that it not start with a daydream. And then you get to a certain point and says, then he woke up. The reader's going to feel like you cheated. The reader's going to feel disappointed. And they may shut you off right then and there. You don't want that. That's why you go and grab something that's actually a part of your story and use it. Or if you're just starting the story off and there's something in that start that's really the start of your story, and that's attention grabbing in itself, then that's fine too. But you want to have in the first one or two sentences something that really will grip the reader. So if it is the story itself, and not some part of the story later on, you still want to grab that attention. You still want to stir that interest. And so if you can find something in there that you can put right up front, that's great. That is fantastic. Do it. And if it doesn't work, erase it and put something else there. One of the great things about doing things on computer rather than a typewriter, you can go back, wipe out whole sections at one time, and just start all over. I've done that. There are other times you can copy and paste it. So you cut it, you use the cut idea, and that copies it, automatically copies it, takes it out of the story. Then you go to someplace else where you want to put it, and you paste it in. It's a lot faster than the old cut with scissors and all that good stuff. So we live in an age when we can do things like that, and it's much faster. Minor editing. By minor editing, I'm talking about checking your spelling, and if you have a good word processing software, it will automatically highlight these. Sometimes it will highlight them and they're not really misspelled. You can add them to your dictionary that the word the processor has, or you can just ignore their highlighting because it doesn't show up in the printed final book. You also want to check the flow. And what do I mean by flow? You want your story to continue to just you want actually let's put it this way. You want the story to start here and just keep on going up. Not this and then this. You try to avoid that if you can, having a steady rise. Now there's going to be a little bit in there like down and up, but you want to keep those down things not quite too far down. Again, you risk the idea of losing your reader, so you want to sort of a if it's doing a chart, sort of going up like that, and so farther and farther and farther. So that takes a lot of work to do that because you, your characters can carry the story, and you will run it. You will do that. In fact, your characters, if you're doing a really good job, you have another problem, and that's making sure your characters do your bidding. But they may end up wanting to do their idea, and you have to watch and say, well, oh, that's better. It's actually natural because that's what they're doing. The character's following. It just starts flowing, and you say, wait a minute, that's not the way I meant that to go. Maybe you got to change. Go back to your plot and look at it and say, I'm going to change my plot a little bit, and then take it on. Now, I want to talk about something else, another tool that's out there. I don't have it on the chart here at all. It's called AI, Artificial Intelligence. Now, I have a lesson that I teach on AI, and I update it, and that will be updated periodically, has been and will be updated very probably frequently, because it's a fast changing tool. It's a good tool. It's also a dangerous tool. So you got to be careful. I would not use AI to write any portion of your story. Why do I say that? Because your publisher is going to ask you, did you use AI to write your story? If you did, and you're being honest and tell them you did, then they have some rules that may clamp down on you, or they might even reject you. Depends upon the publisher, what they do. I'm a publisher myself, and so if you present to me a book in which any portion of it was written by AI, even though you may go in after the fact and do some editing, it's a very complicated and thing that you got to look at, because AI is not a moral person. It's a tool. And so it does not know the difference between truth and fiction. It does not know that it's not supposed to steal from somebody else. But AI will do that if you let it. I think what you should do is use AI as a editing tool. Now, other people will disagree with me, so this is all up to you as to how you do it. But use AI as an editing tool. Minor editing, for instance. Not more than the spelling, but it will. You might even check your flow by it. But maybe it will look at, well, the way you've written it could be improved. Let it go ahead and write a portion for you, but make sure you control where it's at, and then you read it and say, no, I don't like it, out. Or you could say, you know what, I like that. Instead of copying that and pasting it in, here's my thought. Look at it and then rewrite it in your own way. Then AI gets familiar with you and will try to imitate you. So when you read it, if it sounds like you and it's what you would write it as, then go ahead and paste it in. Copy and paste it. But don't accept it simply because this is what it wrote out as saying, well, this is better. In the opinion of AI, it's better. You want it to reflect what you are writing, your your knowledge, your wisdom, and so forth. So it might cause you to do some research. And then that's why I say rewrite it into your own words. Only copy and paste if that would be your own words. But make sure if there's anything in there that has to do with facts, go and do your research. Make sure it's true because AI is not a moral person. It is amoral. It has no morals, good or bad. It simply does what it does. And you have to decide, do I want to use this or do I not? If you're dealing with a nonfiction and you're putting out there something that sounds like it's a fact, and somebody challenges you on it, and maybe somebody gets hurt by it, you could get into a realm of real trouble. So make it where AI is a tool helping you rather than a tool replacing you. At the end of the day, this is what I would do. At the end of the day, I want to be able to look in the mirror and say, I wrote that book, and I am proud of it. If AI wrote it, you didn't write it. I don't care how much it sounds like you. It sounds like you, but it's not you. You did not, your footprint's not there. It's the footprint of AI who's imitating you. So if you are going to use AI, use it as a tool to assist you, to maybe point out a better way, a better approach, or whatever. But don't use it to replace yourself. You're the author. If you're going to go out there and tell people you authored that book, then it'd be a good idea if you actually did author that book, and you can look in the mirror and say so. That's my take. Now, again, there are people out there who say, no, you can trust AI. Go ahead and use trust AI. You can write a book in 1 hour. AI will do it for you. Well, we disagree. Take that for what it's worth. But if I would use AI as a tool. Now we'll get used frequently. I'll refer to AI as a tool for this or that. And I do have a lesson, and I'll probably do a lesson in this podcast at some time on AI itself. But it's a very important tool. It's a very powerful tool, but you got to understand the dangers of it and its limitations. So that's it for today. This is what I wanted you to have today. For just take it and look at it and decide on yourself how you want to do this. How do you grab attention? And it depends upon the story you're writing, fiction, nonfiction, the genre you're in, and stuff like that. How you do this. But this is what you do. Grab attention. It should be, in my opinion, I think you should use action. It doesn't have to be action, but it should be something that grabs attention. It's a tease to get them interested in the story that you're going to write. Then while you're going along, some people want to do the editing, the total editing, right? They write a little and do a total editing. And if that's you, that's fine. But just know that you're going to have to do a total edit at the end anyhow. I recommend you do minor editing as you go along. Spelling, the phrases, punctuation, things of this nature. Your normal things that you would check if you were writing something out. And then the flow of the story itself. And then you can, at the end of the chapter, you can go back and do it again. And at the end of the book, you're going to go and you're going to need to go through and do a real thorough editing process that may involve other people in your editing. And I will discuss editing one of these days as well. So there you have it. There's your start. Hope you get started on it today. You have a great day. We'll see you in the next episode.